Okay, our first speaker, her name is, she's someone who's helping to redefine leadership in Asia, not through louder voices, but through deeper listening. Meet Miki Amarita. She's Singapore-only CNVC certified trainer in Nonviolent Communication, a distinction that took her 10 years to earn. Miki blends the science of neuroscience with the art of empathy, helping leaders create trust, connection, and performance by how they listen and not just what they say. So rooted in her Japanese heritage, Miki brings a quiet strength and cross-cultural depth to her work. Her mission is to grow the next generation of empathetic leaders across Asia, and today we get a glimpse of that beautiful magic. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miki Amarita.
Thank you, Eric. When Satya Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft, he handed out a book on his first board meeting. Does anybody know which book he handed to his senior leadership teams? It wasn't a book on strategy. It wasn't a book on innovation. It was a book on nonviolent communication. Why? Because he inherited a company that was known for hostility, infighting, and backstabbing. So for Microsoft to thrive, he needed to build psychological safety. But how do you actually build psychological safety? Okay, just imagine when someone is criticizing you, attacking you, or even disrespecting you. Instead of fighting fire with fire, your ability to respond in empathy is what creates psychological safety. And yet, in my 15 years of working with CEOs, the higher the position, the less they are wired for listening. Powerful leaders are wired for action, right? Strong in negotiation, persuasion, decision-making. But when it comes to the other side of communication, they struggle to listen. And here is why. When we step into any position of power, the brain region that is responsible for empathy, Antilia insula, becomes less active. This means when you have more power, rank, and privileges, the world feels less threatening to you, right? This sense of socioeconomic immunity can make our brain numb, make us less ethical, more self-centered, and less compassionate. Unless we practice empathy. This was the reason why Satya introduced nonviolent communication at Microsoft. He knew NVC was a simple yet revolutionary process to bring that empathy and compassion back into leadership. As the result, employee engagement rose to 86%. Retention rate held steady at 76%. Microsoft valuation skyrocketed from $300 billion to $3 trillion. So what can we all learn from this? That true impact of your leadership isn't measured by how well you speak, but how deeply you can listen. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we rarely practice empathic listening. For example, your people come into work late, and they confess to you that they are having insomnia and mental breakdown. Instead of listening empathically, we do everything else. We start advising. Hey, you should set 2 alarms next time. Question, what time did you go to sleep last night? Storytelling, diagnosing, these are called empathy blocks. And we give empathy blocks not because we don't have a heart to care, but rather nobody told us how to listen empathically. But what if I told you today, if you replace these old habits to just 2 new ways of listening, you are not only going to resolve conflict, but you will transform your workplace into the culture of collaboration, empathy, and profit, all without costing you any extra dollar. Does it sound too good to be true? It does? But it's not with nonviolent communication. According to Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote this book, there are 2 opposing human nature that lives within us. And he chose 2 animals to illustrate this. A jackal and giraffe. Jackal represent our primal combative defensive self, always fighting to be right, driving disconnection, separation, and isolation. On the other hand, giraffe represent our compassionate nature, having higher perspective and the biggest heart among all the landed animals, showing our capacity for love and compassion and kindness. Okay, now you have met jackal and giraffe. I would like to introduce you to the 4 ways of listening. Jackal ears out and jackal ears in, and giraffe ears out and giraffe ears in. Let me give you some example of each. Okay? So, when someone says to me, Mickey, you never listen. If I have jackal ears out, I'm ready to fight back. What? Me? You are the one who never listen. This is the voice of criticism, attack, and shaming. If I have jackal ears in, when someone says to me, Mickey, you never listen. Instead of blaming other people, I blame myself. Oh gosh, I'm such a bad listener. Maybe I should quit teaching communication altogether. This is the voice of self-blame and inner critics. You see, if I listen like this, I create depression. But if I listen with my jackal ears out, I create conflict with other people. So what's the alternative? The giraffe ears. With these ears, I can only hear feeling and needs, but never the thoughts. Okay? So when someone says to me, Mickey, you never listen. If I have giraffe ears out, instead of fighting or defending, I become curious and listen to your feeling and needs. Are you feeling frustrated because you're needing understanding? This is the voice of empathy. Okay, lastly, if I have giraffe ear in, instead of reacting, I go into myself and listen to my own feeling and needs. I am feeling sad and frustrated because I am needing consideration and respect. This is the voice of self-empathy and self-regulation. And you know what? Just by naming my feeling and needs, my body relaxed. And this shift isn't just psychological. It is physiological. Neuroscientists call this technique name it to tame it. Okay? This means that the part of the brain that got activated when I heard, Mickey, you never listen, actually started to calm down. Okay? Without this process of self-empathy or self-regulation, I'll be still feeling overwhelmed, sad, depressed, and that would put me right into a jackal mode. So you see, in this, anyways, right? Empathy is not just a nice to have soft skills for communication. It is an applied neuroscience. Your body and brain do shift to a state of collaboration when you give and receive empathy. Isn't that fascinating? Thank you. So, would you be willing to do 1 minute quick exercise with me? Okay. Okay. So, let's do giraffe ear in. Okay. So, I'll give you the punchline of you never listen. And instead of you getting mad at me, right? So, you turn into your own feeling and needs. And here's the cheat sheet. That universal feeling and needs list if you need it. Okay? And you will pick one feeling and one needs that comes up for you when you hear me say, you never listen. And you fill in a blank. I feel so and so because I need so and so. Okay, ready? Don't worry, there's no wrong or right answer to this. Yeah, so you just go inward and listen to your feeling and needs. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. You never listen. I feel because I need. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. You see, the room is a little bit quieter, right, when we go inward. And this is very different from I feel so and so because Mickey says something. I am not the cause of your emotion, no matter what I said to you. Yes, I could be the stimulus, but you feel the way you feel because you have needs. Okay, this is very important because if you don't break the cycle of blaming others for how you feel, you'll be a slave to their words, moods, action, or inaction. And you don't want that, right? Just like Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in this space, you have the power to choose how to respond. NVC gives you the space and the structure to respond in a way that is more constructive so that you won't regret after you open your mouth. Yeah? So what we covered today is empathic listening, which is the 50% of nonviolent communication. And other 50 is honest expression. NVC has 2 parts, just like breathing. Honest expression and empathic listening. Honest expression is like breathing out, And inhaling is like empathic listening, right? And if you do this long enough, a point of connection will appear in the middle. And this is the purpose of nonviolent communication, to create a quality of connection where compassionate giving and receiving becomes possible. And this connection is the foundation of true collaboration and human connection, which is sustainable and life-serving. Okay, I could speak a lot more, but let's wrap it up today. Yeah? So, what did we truly uncover today? The leadership at its core is not about domination. It's about collaboration. And without communication, no collaboration is possible. So when Satya Nadella was handing out a book, he wasn't just sharing a book, right? He was handing out a blueprint. A blueprint brought Microsoft from a battlefield to a culture of collaboration, empathy, and profit. And with this foundation, he built $3 million empire. So when you walk into a next meeting, a conversation, or even a conflict, I want you to remember the 4 ways of listening and ask yourself, am I listening to make my point? Or am I listening to understand what you are feeling and needing? Because every time when you choose empathy before education, connection before correction, you are not just leading. You are creating a workplace where everyone needs matter. And this kind of leadership drives profit without sacrificing humanity through nonviolent communication.
I like it, it's so calm. All right.